Hi, I am Cesar Santos and today is sketchbook tour number 8. So let's choose a sketchbook to show you. Oh no, I did this one already. Oh, this one, I haven't done this one. Okay, so this sketchbook I started in 2007, right at the beginning of my professional career. I recommend having a sketchbook, doing a lot of work in it, because you are free to just develop whatever you want in there, and who knows what new ideas you can come up with. I have always worked with sketchbooks since high school, and even to this day I work in my sketchbooks. Behind me is one of my latest sketchbooks, and one of those pieces I'm gonna show at an upcoming show at the end of the month. I'll probably take you there and show it to you as well. The point is, keep working in your sketchbooks. You can be free and experiment, and you get new ideas by working freely in these pages. Just to let you know, I had this sketchbook made in Italy. It's made with Canson mid-tone paper. It's just papers with tones, with different values and different tints that you can use depending on what you want to work and give a different effect. So this first page here is a portrait I did of my wife, idealized. I was testing high chroma colors for the flesh. Before I did this, I'm gonna just skip a couple of pages to show you a drawing I did as a preparation for that portrait, where I can adjust the features and change a couple of things and revise what I was gonna do for the painting. So here is the painting of it. I'm playing with the purple, kind of flashy, and against this blue behind. So I'm creating a lot of contrast with high chroma colors. Here I wanted to keep a memory of my first Bauer copy that I did at the Angel Academy, which was this head of the baby. It's a level 1, it's one of the easiest one to copy, and that was my first one. So I wanted to reproduce it here again, kind of like practice. I'm playing around with some compositions. I ended up creating a painting that I used these sketches. It was called Sand Angels. It's sold in an auction here in Miami. I'm still in touch with a collector who bought that painting, so it's nice to have access to one of the first paintings I sold, 2007. Wow. Here are copies of a Bauer line drawing that I was doing as a homework to discipline myself and practice just line work. Here is a study for a composition I was making for a painting that I called The Following Morning. I was playing with the idea of abstract shapes in the white sheet on top of the sand, also having that cloud echoing his shape on top of him. So it was a little surrealistic. I realized that going to museums was a great exercise, but I wasn't ready to copy color yet, or brushstrokes. So I decided to do a few exercises where I would copy a painting in the museum, but I would draw it to just study values and shapes and line work with the pencil. This piece I started doing from a reproduction of a book. I really love that painting by Waterhouse, and there was a show in Montreal with all the major works by Waterhouse. So I decided to go there and reworked on it based on the real painting. And you can see here I put reworked on Montreal in 2010. That was the show, but I actually started it in 2007. If you go to a show and you have something in your sketchbooks, you can actually compare it again and rework it. These sketchbooks are like a living organism. They develop from within. I was commissioned to do the poster for the film festival with elements of Miami, and I had a couple of ideas here, creating the Freedom Tower that we have in Miami as a camera. I'm playing with the idea of the orange symbolism, the cranes, because Miami was growing so fast. Then I did also this angle here, which is more in perspective. I ended up doing the poster based on this sketch here. Here's another copy of a Bauer drawing in the Bauer book. The Bauer book, actually I have a vlog based on it. You can click here if you want to check that one out. That book has different examples of different levels that you can copy and keep yourself training line work and value. So it's a great source to study. I've made a lot of copies. Actually, this profile here is also a copy from the Bauer book. Here's a sketch of a friend, Matthew Gabelski. We were hanging out in New York talking about art, and I decided to keep it as a memory in one of my pages. My plan was not to make him look a little bit like the heart of the ocean from Titanic. At least he's dressed. Oh, actually, I have a vlog also with him. Click here too. We talk about Williams Bouguereau and a specific painting that we visited while we were in LA. I would call this a failed attempt because I wanted to do a copy by the master Vermeer, but I was drawing on top of a gesso ground. I was feeling that the gesso was imposing itself, preventing me from exploring the real capacity of pencil, so I just abandoned this. Here I have a good quote as a reminder, because you might see me showing all this stuff and it might look like an easy thing, but it's just a lot of work that I put into it for many years. So just be patient. It's not as fast as a click on Instagram or on Google for research. You have to develop from within your art. And here it says, "He who has not realized the difficulties of this art does in it nothing worthwhile." That was Chardin. As I was in Paris in 2008, I went to the Louvre and did a few studies. Here is a drawing I did of a sculpture. Then I saw some students and I wanted to kind of grab that impression quickly, a little bit of a hint of a sculpture and the students drawing from it, kind of like to remind everybody of the importance of drawing from sculptures. This is a failed attempt at drawing with a silver point. I made the preparation with rabbit skin glue and it's cracking a lot, but this is silver point, so it was nice to experiment. I should have tried more. I have a confession to make. As I was in the museum, someone approached me and offered me some money to buy one of my drawings, and I needed the money, or I wanted the money. This was one of the first pages I cut from my sketchbook to sell individually. Now I'm doing it as my project and my art expression. This is a good example to show you shouldn't copy from books, because the book normally has higher chroma. I don't know why they do that. Is it on purpose to entertain the viewers and to make the pages more exciting to look at with higher chroma? But definitely, if you take a book and take it to a museum and flip it, you will see that the reproductions are really high chroma and yellowish. Might be because of the lighting, might be because of other reasons. Copying it from the book can alter and influence the way you apply the color. So you can see that this is very high chroma. We have a Caravaggio here. And you might say, oh my God, but you're talking about sketchbooks and most of the things here are copies. Yes, that's why I don't want to be doing canvas and copies so seriously. I do them like that to explore and experiment and then apply it in my own work. I wanted to explore with the idea of treating the subject. And in these pages, I had two young ladies looking down. One, I developed it with cool colors to create that sense of calmness. And in the other one, I painted it a little bit more aggressive with warmer colors and feel the difference of contrast between these two feelings. This copy I did in 2008 and I wasn't in front of the original piece. I remember doing this from a reproduction. That's why it gets those high chroma effects. I wanted to explore with drawing flowers and copying it from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. This is a copy of a piece by Fatin Latour. This is a copy of a Repin. I do this to get different aspects and influence from artists, because art history is so rich and we are missing so much from the education they've had, that I thought if I copy different styles and put them together and do one after the other, that will influence my technique and my way of approach, which will unconsciously affect my technique. Leighton is one of the greatest masters that is pretty much ignored if you study art in a regular school, and I wanted to explore that chiaroscuro that he has and all that expression on the portraits. What I do is I prepare the page by adding a couple of coats of gesso, and then on top of that gesso I sand a little bit and I add the color of the Campintura. In this case, it's a color that matches the flesh color. That way it will be easier for me to find the skin complexion. One day I went to the museum with color pencils and I tried copying a Rubens, but I didn't like it. I was failing, so I never advanced on it. This piece was one of the most important pieces or famous pieces at the National Museum in Sweden. I thought copying it with a pencil would get me to understand it a little bit better. This page is an example of the process of creating a figure drawing. First you do the thumbnail sketch, and then you create a line work with the proportions of the model, and then you fill the shadow shapes with a solid value and then start rendering it and giving it form. So you can see this incomplete piece kind of showing all those stages. After meeting one of the instructors at the Rapping Academy, I got inspired to do a portrait under his instruction and try to build the portrait with the Russian style that he was teaching, which is like a lot of zigzag points of tension, up and down, cross hatching. And this is what I got with that sketch. This is an unfinished bark copy. I was developing some composition for a plein air competition that was taking place in Miami, so here's some evidence of that brainstorming. Also using a little bit of the Russian style, I did a drawing of my left hand with my right. I applied the copy I did of the rapping that you saw before to do this portrait of Valentina while reading. This sketch is a preparation for a portrait I did of this Swedish model that I had. I think I've shown this before. This is a copy of a painting I bought, one of my first important pieces I bought. There is a vlog on it too, copying this piece. So click here again. Man, this sketchbook is bringing me a lot of connections. Networking. I'm networking. In 2010, I went to the Hudson River to explore the idea of landscape painting. I remember the first day I got there, I did some studies of rocks. After visiting the Metropolitan Museum and walking through the Velázquez room for a while, I decided to do a self-portrait with a Velázquez look. So this was me. I had hair, so that wasn't that much of an invention. I had shorter beard, but you can see the whole stylistic aspect of it, trying to imitate a Velázquez. Do you hear the frog? I was trying to really grasp the method of the Russian drawing, so here is my attempt at it. This is a copy after Alexander Novoselov. Two portraits, one of Steven Bauer. I met him when I was working in a reality show and he was part of the crew. Steven Bauer was a star in Que Pasa USA. It was a TV show before. I came from Cuba, I think. He also had an important role in Scarface, the movie. And to conclude, here we have a copy of Waterhouse. Let's wrap this video up. I got so many works in my sketchbook, but I gotta have ingredients if I wanna cook.